Hello and welcome to this video on linear, so they're the straight line algebra graphs. So we're going to be looking at first how to calculate the values for a linear graph, and then we're going to be looking at how you would plot those values on the graph. So your first example here is this question here. So it says complete the table of values for y equals 4x take away 4. So before you sort of pause your video to do that, just to explain what this actually is all about. So all they're giving you here is an equation, and rather than you trying to solve an equation to figure out what the letters are, you're kind of plotting a kind of a pattern, if it were. So you're trying to show what happens to y when x changes, and you're using this equation then to plot the coordinates for this equation on a graph. Okay, so if you just pause your video, have a go at this one, and then we'll take a look at the answers for this. Okay, here are your correct values for these. So if we just pick a couple of these out just to have a go at, so if we look at the actual equation here, it says y equals 4x minus 4. Well, 4 followed by x means 4 multiplied by x, and then we've got to subtract 4 there. So if we look at this first one, so if we look at just 3, 4 times 3 gives you 12. 12 take away 4 gives you 8. And what you've now got is a coordinate. So you've got a coordinate of 3, 8. So what this is telling you is that when x is, for this particular equation, that when x is 3, y will be 8. Now be really careful with your negative number rules on these. So if we look at minus 2 times 4 will give you minus 8. And then minus 8 take away 4 gives you that minus 12. Just take care with these ones because that's where people often go wrong on the algebra graphs. They get the negative number coordinates wrong. Okay, we'll look at how to plot this a little bit further along in the video, or how to plot these types of graphs. So let's have a look at another example of just the table of values first. Okay, here is your next example. So we've got y equals 1 minus 2x. So pause your video and have a go at this one. Okay, let's have a look at the answers to this one then. So if we just choose a couple of the numbers as an example. So if we look at this number 2, well, 2 times 2 does give you 4. So we've got 4 for 2x. Remember, you've got to do your multiplications first. And then we're going to be doing 1 take away 4, which will give you that minus 3 just there. So we've got another set of coordinates there, which are 2, minus 3. So those will be plotted on your graph. If we look at the minus 2 then, well, 2 times minus 2 gives you minus 4. Then we've got to do 1 minus minus 4. So remember, when you subtract a negative number, it becomes an add. And that is how we end up with our 5 for that particular example there. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at how you sort of take that a stage further and you actually plot the linear graphs now. So we've got an example here. It says on the grid, draw the graph of y equals 2x take away 3 for the values of x from minus 3 to 3. So you've got to go from your minus 3 on your left-hand side of your page, so just down there, to there. So you've got to have something at on each of these lines, essentially. Okay, you've got to plot those values, and then you've got to draw your line afterwards. So if you want to, you can do a bit of a sketch of this if you want. If you've got some squared paper handy, you could just quickly sketch this out and plot it based on that. And this is how your graph should look. So now, sometimes they will give you the table of values that we looked at in the first part of the video. Sometimes they will not. So it's always a good idea to sketch out a little table, because if you do calculate some of the values correctly, you do sometimes get some marks, even if you say plot it wrong. Okay. So it's the same as we were doing in the first part of the video, same process, then you've got to plot them. So in this particular equation, you've got 2 3's, which are 6, take away 3, and you get 3. So your 3 3 is just here. Remember your coordinates, you're going along the corridor and up the stairs. So you've got 3, 3 for that one. And then you've got 2, 1 for this one, 1 minus 1 for this one, 0 minus 3 for this one. And remember your linear graphs. So these are your graphs where there's no x squared involved. So these would generally look like this. There'll be no x squared feature. It will, if it's got a positive in front of x, the line will go in this direction. Okay. If it's an equation like this with a positive number in front of x. Okay, let's have a look at another example then. This time we've got on the grid, draw the graph of y equals 1 minus 4x. So pause your video, maybe try and sketch this out and have a go. Okay, and here is your answer to this one. So you will notice here the line goes down from left to right, and that's because we've got minus 4x there. So what we're doing here, if we look at that minus 2, for example, we're doing 4 times minus 2, which is minus 8. Then we're going to be doing 1 minus minus 8, which becomes an add, and that gives you your 9 there. So because we've got a minus there, that means it's going to be a negative gradient. It's going to be a gradient going down from left to right. Okay, final example then. So sometimes they may put in ones that aren't always y equals. You can rearrange this if you want to. If you've got an add there attaching that x, so you can rearrange this as y equals 4 minus x if you want to as well. You don't have to though, but I'll just explain why in a second. But you could rearrange it so it looks the same as our previous equation there if you find that easier to do. So see if you can sketch out this and work out the values and plot this particular one. Okay, so if we look at this equation then, we've got our tables of values here. It says x plus y equals 4. So what that is telling you for each of your coordinates is that the x coordinate and the y coordinate is always going to be equal to 4 on this particular equation. So that's why we end up with 4 and 0 there, because when x is 4, y's got to be 0. So that's that one there. Then we've got 3 add 1. So again, 3 add 1 makes 4. Then we've got 2 add 2. So when x is 2, y's got to be 2. That makes 4. And you get the pattern. So all the way along this line, every x and y coordinate will add up to make 4. Okay, so if they do put one in like this, don't be put off by it. You've just got to make sure every single coordinate you plot adds up to make this number on the end. So if it said x plus y equals 6, you'd have coordinates like, I don't know, 4 and 2 and 3 and 3 and things like that on that particular example. Okay, and that's it for your video today. So thanks very much for listening. Please hit subscribe and there'll be loads more videos coming your way. Thanks very much. Bye.